It's about 1:30 in the afternoon, and I am in Wat Aunalom, or the Aunalom Pagoda, in Phnom Penh by the riverside on the 31st of May 2020. I realised it's been about a year since I did a proper diary update, and that's maybe going to be a more regular thing because that's something that I'm not as much into now. But to carry on the story of what happened, and I'll add to this at the end if I forget anything. But I was at the cinema, and for some reason I was living out. I remember I was living in a real backpacker dive, maybe one of the cheapest places in Phnom Penh, called Long Ninh, which I love. But I checked in. I think I went away and I came back and I was really, really sick. I was so hot and I was vomiting and I had diarrhea. It got worse and worse. And it was so bad at one point. I moved into the aircon room and I could only just manage to get to the room. And I went to the hospital. But I went there and I told them the symptoms, and the guy just said, well, you've got no symptoms of a known disease. And that was like $30. Didn't even look at me, didn't take a temperature. And they told me he's just like a general doctor, but on the receipt it said cardiology, just a total waste of time and money. But eventually I got better anyway. And there was an older Italian volunteer at that point, and I really got on with her. But when she left, I think, as I recall, I left as well. And I went down to Cambodia for quite a bit. I was there for a few weeks, got really, really bored, but it was a really creative time. And I worked on my website, and I made like an SEO book and video course, so I got halfway through it. And I kind of lost steam a bit, but my health got worse and worse. I was living in this place, and there was this pain in my right hip that I've always got, but it just got steadily worse and worse. And I had to bite the bullet before I left and buy a walking stick, because it was bad enough for long enough that I could hardly get around sometimes. And in Cambodia it got worse and worse and worse until I was using the walking stick with pretty much every step. So I came back to Phnom Penh, and it was okay when I was working because I didn't have to walk around too much. But when I was off and I was walking around the city, then it got quite bad. So I stayed for a while, and we had a couple of volunteers. Well, I think what happened then was I was in Cambodia doing these websites, and I got a message that one of the volunteers has just been kicked out. And I had no idea, okay, what's happened. But I was really good friends with one of the other volunteers, a French woman, I think called Marie, I think. And we were still texting. She was still there and I was gone. So I texted her and said, what's happened? And she said, well, they were in the kitchen and they were singing with the two of them. And the boss came out, started screaming and saying that, well, she's got to go. She's just making too much noise. And rather than just... Well, she said she's got to be quiet, and rather than just accept that, she brought up this, that somebody's killed themselves in her family and she's been suffering from depression, completely overreacted, and he told her she's got to leave, and she was being thrown out. Now, this seemed really quite odd to me, but I got the story when I got back to the cinema. Like, the boss had taken this new volunteer just before I left, and of course, he'd seduced her, and they'd, had a thing together. And then she'd been upstairs, they're telling everybody about this thing, and that, the actual sexual experience itself was rubbish, and laughing at him and stuff. Then started volunteering, and obviously she felt that having this fling gave her some kind of special status. So when she was told to be quiet and then told to leave, she didn't react very well. Well, what happened next was that she complained to the website where the volunteers were arranged, and said, I don't know what was said, but she obviously made some allegation against him because he couldn't actually log into the account, and they just ignored him at the website. They wouldn't tell him what the problem was. So he asked other people who were still members, including myself, to log in to ask what was wrong. Well, the answer that we got was that there's been a complaint about him, and they're contacting other women because it was of a sexual nature. So they're contacting all the other female volunteers who've ever been there to see if there was a problem. And after like a week or something, there was obviously enough other complaints about him that he was completely kicked off that website. And then a few days later, he was also completely kicked off Couchsurfing. So this was a huge issue, and I was basically called back from Campo. Well, my health was pretty bad, but just being around the cinema and working, it was okay. I could carry on. But without those websites, there was like less volunteers. There was a few people who'd already arranged, who were already coming, but when they were gone, we were going to be in trouble. So there was Mark, an Irish farmer, who was quite good. He was hardworking. Another guy called Yanni, who was I think he was of Turkish origin, but he was actually German, and he was an actor with a deep, deep, booming voice and a handlebar moustache, but a young, strikingly handsome kind of guy. And he'd just broken up with a Russian girlfriend, and he was drinking, because of his sorrows and everything. And then we had an older volunteer at the same time, a lady. The boss was living away at the time. She was the oldest we ever had, but she was so critical of everything everybody did. Nothing was right. So there was always this bad feeling there, because I was always being told off for this or told off for that. And the thing is, she didn't really do a great job herself. She was an average volunteer, but she acted like, kind of a dinner lady, which had a bad atmosphere. And she was going to stay for a long time. But one day I saw this huge rat crawl under a door, nothing to do with me, but she came out pretty shocked, and she left soon afterwards, as did I. As I was leaving, then this Spanish couple came in, and all was good, but my health got so bad, I realised that I'm just not going to be okay. Now, I'd already had a good experience in Malaysia with the hospital, and my arm dislocated, so my decision was to just go down, and it's so bad I'm going to have to find out what's wrong and do something about it. It's something to do with my muscle, God knows what. So I went down again to Campo. On the way to Malaysia, I got a ticket booked and a flight and everything. And I remember it was all really, really flooded in Campo at that point, and it got quite bad. I think before that I went to Vung Tau in Vietnam for a while as well, and I had a really good time there. It was a really nice little break, very different place. I had a perfect hotel. I restarted doing drawing and art with a view towards painting. I was doing a lot of pencil drawings and coloured pencil drawings. But anyway, then I went down to Campo. It was really, really flooded. I was in a lot of pain. And I got down I came back then to Phnom Penh, and I flew to Malaysia. That was it. So then I went in to the doctor. It was Ruka, where you can just turn up, and it's just like about $6 to see someone. Best doctor I ever saw. I saw this lady, and she listened to all the problems, and I went through everything. Right, first symptoms from my child, she took a load of notes, she asked superiors. She said that she doesn't think there's a long-term dystrophy, because I would have had breathing problems by now, which I think is wrong. But she said, look, we'll just do the x-ray, blood tests, come back in 2 weeks. So I went down to Malacca for a bit. I stayed with Harry, of course, and Maya, but Blue Dolphin, the cybercafe that I've always loved and got so much done at, it was just closed. And the thing about Malaysia is all of the shopping malls you can hang out in are so cold. It's ridiculous. There's no place you can be in that's just comfortable to hang out. So anyway, I came back to Kuala Lumpur, and I just hung out there. I went to KLCC every day, and I hung out in the train station where there's quite a good food court, where the aircon's broken on one side, so you can actually be a little bit comfortable. And when it was time, I went back to the doctor, and she showed me an x-ray, and it looked fine to me. I said, oh, that's nice. She goes, no, because the hip space is narrowed. There's no cartilage whatsoever on this hip. So she showed me what it should look like, and of course the bone's pressed against the bone. It's standard osteoarthritis, and I probably need a hip replacement. She said, you can see a consultant, but it's going to take 6 weeks or something. So I said, okay. I went on the waiting list for 6 weeks, and I was staying in a Russian place called Natalia, which was fantastic, and I was really just happy living there every day, and I was given physio. I only got 2 sessions, and it was $10, so I have to pay double. But I started improving straight away from physio. I just got better and better. 6 weeks later, while I was there, all this like the stuff with Hong Kong was going on. There was a lot of like the people were being beaten and they're censoring people, and I tried to go to a demonstration but got lost. Another thing that happened was I've been trying to get my father's birth certificate with a view to getting the documents I need to get an Indian overseas passport. And I sent a postcard at that time to a guy, because I found the death certificate. I got that from the council, and there was somebody who registered the death who lived just nearby him. So I sent a postcard asking, do you know anything about my father? Do you know the family or the brother's address? And we got a letter back, and Carly went over for me to speak to this guy, who was his neighbour. He was with him when he died. And he says he does have some kind of contact for the brother, but his children cleaned up the house, so he'll look for it, but he can't find it. And of course, he found a photo of my father in the hospital, but didn't find the contact. So that kind of drew a blank at that point. I found a great place to buy the stockings that I needed for my bad legs. Another thing that happened was my niece decided, we both inherited my aunt's house, and she'd been running it as a buy-to-let business, but she wanted to sell it. So I had to sort the documents and get them notarized while I was there in Malaysia. That's another thing I did. All the time I was waiting for the consultants. It was around Diwali time. I remember all the celebrations going on. Also, while I was there in the middle of Diwali, I remember I got a text from the boss saying that he's throwing in the towel and he's definitely going to close in May this year, I think he said, which is about now. Anyway, at that time then, I got back to the doctor, saw the consultant, and it basically, opposite experience. The guy was a total dick. He was training some other woman, barely looked at me. He said to me, he looked at my chest. When I absolutely insisted, he looked at me and said, he doesn't see a sign of dystrophy. Go to a gym and work out, and we'll do a test for dystrophy in 6 months if there's no improvement in the muscle. So that was it basically. He told me to come back in 6 months and watch it, because he says when you get more bad days than good days, then you need to book yourself in for a hip replacement, and that's going to be it. Well, at this time, there was a young British woman called Kat. She started working there just before I left, and I was good friends with her. We were texting, and she was going to move on, and the boss kept asking me then to come back, because he had no staff left, everybody was leaving. So, okay, I've got to be back in 6 months. So I left, and I stayed in the guest house in Phnom Penh then. When I arrived at the cinema to move in, Kat was still there. She was leaving that day. Apparently she'd been told to leave numerous times. She kept on saying, do you mind if I stay one more day? Turns out the boss was trying to get rid of her, and I had no clue why. Turned up there, and she was being thrown out. And when I walked in the kitchen, there were maybe 60 full size, but they were empty vodka bottles. It'd gone in her room to search it, and just found all these bottles. Turns out she's like an alcoholic. Well, the Spanish couple was still there. They were just going to travel on for a month and come back. And I didn't really believe it, but they showed me this secret video they took when they snuck in her room, and it looked like a derelict squat. She'd been living like an animal. But she was a young, pretty, very educated sounding woman, but absolute. I remember when I used to walk around, she'd just walk past me like I was invisible, and looking back that she was drunk, it was so obvious. But she was thrown out, they left, and I moved in their room, but because she'd vomited all over the mattress, I had to move into the couple's room, which he was not happy about, although it's clearly superior. Now at this point, most of my symptoms had gone with the physiotherapy, and it was a much better deal, so I'd worked there by myself to cover these two for 1 month. When they came back, I had to move back to the little room with just a foam mattress, and that was like, I felt humiliated. So I thought I'd go to Van Tau for a bit. Another thing that happened then was that I started going to the gym on a regular basis, which I really, really enjoyed. Actually, I got a free training session with a Taiwanese physiotherapist, and then I would go twice a week. And I think there was some improvement. I got fitter, I got better with the machines, and everything was going quite well. And also, then I got back into acrylic painting. I was doing quite a bit of painting at that point. Well then, I moved back in then, and we just lived like that for quite a long time. And things got worse and worse. Like around Christmas time, the lady of the couple went back to Spain and he stayed alone, and we had such arguments about the schedule and what's fair, what's not fair. The boss was continually like bullying me but like teasing me about my age and stuff like that. And because of that, this Spanish guy had no respect for me whatsoever. I was just being treated like a doormat. So New Year's Day, I came to the Onlam Pagoda for the first time, and I realised what a great place this is. Since then, I've been here all the time. Usually, at least once a week, I come for a renewal day on Sunday, and I meditate and pray and everything. But I actually went in and I lit incense and I prayed in front of the Buddha statues. It's become my main sanctuary. It's actually the most important pagoda in the Khmer Buddhist religion, and I really like it here. Well, after Christmas, she came back from Spain, and things just got worse and worse, and eventually there was some discussion on the roof about I have to do more hours now because I'm not doing as many hours as everybody else. And he went off then to some place, I can't remember where. He went travelling, and while he was gone, there was a huge argument again. He was always walking around, like at 2 a.m. in the morning, he comes in, he just goes and gets a couple of beers from the fridge upstairs, but that wakes me up. So I said to him, like, do you mind just coming down, putting a couple of beers in the fridge? And he said, no, you won't even do that. It's nothing to him whatsoever. So there was this big argument. I said, well, I'm just leaving to Campot. Then I'll take a week off. So I just left on a whim in the morning, and I spoke to the lady. I've always got on with his partner. It's him. So I went off to Campot for the week. Of course, while I was there, cinema was closed down because of the flu, the Chinese virus. It was closed down. They came to Campot. It stayed shut for a while. We had this Lithuanian volunteer, and she left just before the borders closed. And before that, we had a girl called Pekwi, a young woman I really, really got on with. I miss her. But then there were no volunteers for about 6 weeks. But he started doing private sessions on a donation basis, and he kept everything going like that. I came back to the guest house because I'm just so bored there. They wouldn't let people leave. There were no flights. I had a flight to Malaysia to see the doctor, and that was cancelled. And then he invited them back on the slide to help out, to decorate and to do the private functions, but not me. So I've been kind of sidelined and not volunteering. I'm pretty certain it's just finished. I mean, when I walked out and decided to go to Campot on a whim, I was thinking then, I'm done with this. I'm just a doormat. But of course, this whole virus situation made it worse. So I started just hanging around. I met this Chinese woman one night when I was in Mad Monkey. It's insane, so close to me. Just a few, she was, I can't explain it. It's like she knew me, and she's acting like we were best friends. But a young, normal businesswoman. I've had it before with the mainland Chinese. They're quite eccentric in their thing. But at this point, I was speaking to nobody. And I've got to say, now I've been here for well over a month, paying daily rent. Basically, I've just got art and writing, and I'm trying to pull some projects together, but it's boring. And I spend quite a bit of time at night time in bars, just chatting to people and trying to make friends. And I've got in a few scrapes and adventures that I am not going to talk about. Well, I think I've written down... another thing that happened was that I volunteered for IMC, for the Buddhist place in California that I really, really love. I'm doing transcriptions for them, like the main guy that I really love. His talks, I transcribe them, and they're making that. They put my transcriptions on the website, and on an app there's like a team of us. So that's another thing that I get in, that I got into. That's a good thing I got into, as opposed to all the other adventures in bars that I've had. But apart from that, that was everything that I can think of. I'll add to it now or in show notes if there's any more news I can think. But the situation is, all the borders are closed. The visas are just cancelled. We can overstay until further notice. It will be at least a month, I think. All the surrounding countries are closed. I'm bored of Kampot. There's nothing to do. I'm tying up loose ends, trying to write. I'm drawing and painting a bit. I'm trying to put my paintings online and maybe start some side business like that. I'll see if I can develop that. But mostly it's just random work and loafing around in bars. So, to speak about the spiritual side, which is eyes, my spiritual lesson for this talk, which is that I think that a lot of being not enlightened, a lot of being stuck in samsara, is to do with being embodied. I think that there's a strong sense that we exist in our body, and a lot of that is to do with, like when you're sitting in front of a movie screen, you're in the cinema, and you sit and you look at the screen's before you. And I think when you look at the way we perceive the world, it's mostly visual for me. I see the world. So there's this vision, and I look, and it's like I'm behind the vision. I'm looking towards the vision. The vision's here, my eyes are seeing it. I locate that vision to my eyes, and there's a consciousness just behind my eyes observing it. But when I close my eyes and meditate, there's the blackness of my eyelids, or I can have my eyes slightly open. And then there's the mental pictures of my eyes, which let me know where the vision is. For example, when you're meditating, if you feel something on your hand, you don't actually feel the shape of your hand. If you look closely at consciousness, there's a shape of a hand, or the mental picture of your hand that comes to mind. The sensation is one thing, and there's a mental picture of your hand, and there's this feeling of me existing as a self near my eyes, and my hand is down there, and I know it's my hand because there's a mental picture of my hand. That's how a sensation in my hand is experienced in meditation, or in any time, just that when we're not meditating, we're not actually seeing objectively enough to see that there is no hand, and there are no eyes, and this feeling of being located by the eyes, it's totally an illusion. It's actually just, there's vision, there's awareness, aware of what can be perceived, the eye, with the eyes, the vision, and then there's mental pictures of eyes, and there's the feeling of existing near a body. You know, every Sunday I come to where I'm sitting now in Wat Aonalom, and just like when I was living at Throsel, or Buddhist Abbey, I read the rules for meditation, which I think was written by Master Dogen. And where Dogen tells you the rules of meditation and how to meditate. And one of the images at the end is that if you do the meditation properly, then you'll be like the water where the dragon swims, or the mountain where the tiger roams. So I've got this image of a mountain with a tiger walking all over it. But then usually you'd be the tiger, which is self. But then as an awake person, you're the mountain. You're an awareness that surrounds that self. You're not actually the tiger, you're the ground that it's walking on. And I think then that's being disembodied. It's not, when you look at the way that you experience reality, and you look closely when you're meditating, yeah, there's sensations, mental pictures of your body, and there's the feeling of being located near eyes, and you look, and there's just awareness with these things arising inside of them. There's vision inside of a huge infinite awareness, and that's what you can see. Try and locate where you are as you can see it. There's sensation, there's vision, and there's a feeling of being close to those things, but you're not. Awareness isn't located, it's not your awareness. And when you meditate, you try and get into a zone, like when you're spaced out, you're just sitting staring at something and you forget yourself for a minute. You're trying to get into a zone, but you're zoned in on this sense of there being. Yep, there's vision, there's sensation, and there's mental pictures of parts of your body and your eyes that link yourself to an embodiment inside of this huge awareness. Where are you? Why are you close to the eyes? When you're sitting there and you're seeing a vision and you're seeing pictures of your eyes, mental pictures that locate what you can see close to your scalp, close to your eyes, or behind your eyes, wherever you feel that you are. Why is it there? Because it's not. It's just it could just as easily be that you locate yourself on Neptune or down the street or in Kathmandu. It can be anywhere. It's actually everywhere. And you need to really, really look at location while you're meditating. Where are you? Because when you realize where you are, which is everywhere, that is your awakening. And you're the mountain whereon the tiger roams, or the water wherein the dragon swims. Watch out for it while you're meditating. Well, that is my talk here from the Aonulon Pagoda. I'm going to go now and look around bars to see if I can meet people and what scrapes and adventures I can get in from this point on. And that's how boring it can be here. And I just don't know what's going to happen afterwards, or what the plan is after this. I can't actually volunteer or travel on. I'm just in this room doing what work I can. But if I live long enough, I'll update again, and you can carry on the story of my slow search for meaning and nirvana as I transverse my life in Asia. I might add if there's anything else that comes to mind. Thanks for listening, and stay safe.